Hey everybody, my name is Jenny Gersman and I'm joined by Tiffany Turner, and we are academic advisors, and we are going to present the Early Alert System kind of workshop for you. We've done a couple of these over the past year or so, but every semester we have updates and we have questions, and we just kind of want to keep everybody on the same page. And if you've never done an Early Alert, this will also teach you how to do that. So, Tiffany, go ahead and start us off if you could.
All right. So, what is an early alert? Are you sharing the screen? Oh, there it goes. Okay. Sorry. Early alerts are a system, or is a tool used to help identify at-risk students, provide support, and improve retention and graduation rates. So by pinpointing any issues the student's having, whether that's with classes or logging in to Blackboard early, we can increase the student's likelihood of success. This is just a tool to add another point of connection to express to our students that we care and they're not just another face in the crowd.
And I'm going to show you this. So, we had one of our instructors point out that they do not go from this screen from retention tab. I guess they do not have that, or you do not have this. You go to early alert messages. Either way, it will take you to this screen. So we will kind of go back and forth there. And we'll go in so you can see, I can see what you see. Okay, so it takes you right to the early alert. So you all don't really need to see how many early alerts are submitted. That's really for me and Tiffany and the other advising team. I'm not going to submit this as myself. I'm not teaching this semester, so I will have to use somebody else. So I'm going to choose a faculty member. And just choose from there. Let's see. All right. So then the next step, once you have yourself listed here, it should give you a list of your classes in this drop down. This one does not, but it should list all of your sections here. And so you'll be able to choose the class of which you're going by one, and then it will list those students. It will generate the list of students in that course. So I can go ahead and choose one of those students. This is also when you can choose multiple students. You do not have to do one by one. However, we do not want you to share multiple student information and multiple student names in that alert, because whatever message you put in the details will show up for each and every one of those individual students that you've selected. So if it's a generic message, which I'll go in and explain in just a second, that is fine. But we do not want Evan's name on Ariel's alert and vice versa. So I'll kind of show you more about that. So we're going to add that student. And what is the relationship? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a very important step. So we want to choose a course. If you leave it as no relevant course, that does not help us in advising at all, because we do not know what course the student is currently in that you are teaching. A lot of us have kind of become familiar with who teaches what, but some, adjuncts and things like that, sometimes we don't know. And so we cannot assume that it's automatically going to show up. So you're going to the courses. Here you can see that the lecture and lab is separate. So say the student is in your lecture and they are not doing well. Relationship is you're the current faculty member for that. And the type of concern, as you can see, it varies from anywhere from attendance, grade performance, just a general concern, or some other areas here. And we'll go into a little bit more depth about the medical, disciplinary, and if it's appropriate to actually submit an early alert for that. This box here, this is a confidential concern. Now, if you click this box, it will give you an error message that Michelle Anderson and Mason Campbell, they will be able to see it, and it will no longer be visible to advising. Now, if that's what you want and you believe that this is going to be something that is going to need immediate action, then go ahead and do that. If not, and it's something to do with attendance or academic progress, please do not check that button. Okay, so we'll do it as attendance, severity. Go ahead and just choose high severity, and details. This is the beef right here. This is what we want to know, what is going on. So in this, you can choose any student is has not been attending or has signed into, and you can abbreviate Blackboard. We all know what that is. Blackboard for 2 weeks. Okay, great. So that's what's going on. Then, have you interacted with the student? At this point, what we want to be on the same page with you all is, hopefully you're answering yes. Now, if you have not, that's okay. You can still submit the early alert, but we are wanting you to have that interaction first. And then if you need us to get involved, that's fine. But please know, either way, you are more than welcome to submit this. If you not talk to them and you want to submit the early alert that you have not talked to them and you want us to interact with them, that is fine. And you will let us know at what point and what stage you're at with the student. So if you've talked to them and say, yeah, I've talked to them after class, or I've talked to them via email or phone, they're having some problems, but they're back on track, but I haven't seen them in a week or 2 weeks. That's when we reach out and say, hey, what's going on? So you will choose one of these. A lot of times we get this one. I've communicated my concern to the student, but was unsuccessful or did not get a response. Shocker, the students a lot of times do not check their UAPTC email. If they do not do that, we will still send an email to them as a first contact, but we will also take that extra step and email them to their personal account and or call them directly on the phone. So at this point, you can say, I've emailed with no response. And please be as specific as you can. The more specific you are, the better we have a grasp on the situation. If we know that you've been trying to reach out to them, or if the student has some specific issues going on, we know, okay, we should email or let's call them directly for the first contact. And then you clicked submit early alert, and then that will notify us. And I'll just cancel out of this. And I do want to show you an example of an early alert, or one that's been in process as of right now. Oh, come on, there we go. 2, 3, 7, 5. And we were asked to show kind of the progress by one of the instructors in our earlier meeting this morning, who wanted to see, well, how does this all look? All right. So as you can see, each early alert is, the student specifically has 2 instructors that have submitted early alerts for the student. Looks like 2 different classes. All right. So Sherry Ray Trevino has submitted an alert. So that looks like, when she says students, that looks like it was a mass. She chose several students and kept it very general. Thank you, Sherry. That's what we want you to do. Okay, and so everything is documented. So she submitted that on the 23rd. Tiffany then did an intervention on the 23rd and had to follow up with Michelle Anderson. There's probably some private information there that we don't need to work on. Full concern. Okay, I see that. So that's when we don't really want to share too many details, just out of the respect of privacy for the student. And okay. So then you can see every email that has gone on between Tiffany and the student, and Tiffany and Sherry. So once Sherry submitted that, Tiffany reached out to the student, and that went to her, Karen's email. And then she notified Sherry, said, hey, you know, we've attempted to contact the student that you posted on the early alert on this day. We will keep you in the loop. So then you can see kind of what's been going on, and that will bring us to a point regarding student privacy and what we have for that. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. All right, so again, with the details, this is an example of an alert that there's no details for this early alert. We don't know what's going on. We know it's in attendance, so they're apparently not showing up, logging in, or showing up to class for their psych class, but there's no details about it. So we would still reach out to the student and say, you know, hey, either keep it general, generic and say, hey, how's your semester going? Or say, hey, we heard from your psychology and human experience instructor and said, going on for the student. We enter those as the advising team. We enter them in hopes to kind of understand how we can better retain these students and what's going on. And if they're getting multiple early alerts from multiple teachers about the same thing, you know, we would tend to kind of bring them in person and say, hey, let's talk about this. What do we need to do? And then, you know, before we schedule for next semester, make a different plan. So. All right, Tiffany, can you tell us what happens after the instructor submits the early alert?
Yeah. So the next steps are the advising team, Jenny and I, will reach out to the student or some of the other academic advisors. Will reach out to the student and notify the instructor of the intervention, which you saw in that sample that Jenny showed, where I emailed the student and I was just like, hey, how's everything going? Can we help you with anything? And then I also followed up and let the professor know that we did submit an email to the student and we're waiting to hear back. So the initial email is sent from that customized template. It's the same across the board. I have to go in and personalize it for each automatically, and we send different depending on the details in the situation, which is important for you to tell us what's going on with the student or maybe what they're not getting done. We do work with the student either in person, phone, or via email to discuss their struggles and to assist. Again, you saw that in the sample that Jenny showed. If we do not hear back within a week, we forward the email that we sent to their UAPTC student account to their personal email, or we call them depending on the severity, again, of those details. So, and then we close out the early alert once it's resolved or after 2 weeks, whichever comes first. We will go ahead and close them pending closed so that, because you saw we have like 200 open. And so we will, to keep that traffic down, we'll go ahead and pending close them, and then we'll continue to monitor. So additional early alerts that can be submitted are the disciplinary alerts. If students are being disruptive in class, or there's something other than their grades that you need brought to someone's attention, that information is forwarded to Michelle Anderson for review and action. You can also submit alerts that require intervention by a counselor if there's something personal going on in the students' lives, or maybe there's an accident or a family emergency. That information is also forwarded to Michelle Anderson as well as Alvin Kirkland for review and action. And then finally, the confidential alerts. Those are only received by Mason and Michelle for review and action. And again, Jenny's going to tell you a little bit more about those confidential alerts.
So the confidential alerts, like I showed you guys before, that's a box that you click in when you are creating the early alert. And these are the kind of sensitive topics that we're talking about that do not need to be submitted as a regular early alert, like attendance or academic performance. So if, you know, cases such as students who are requiring some counseling and disability services, if they have concerns with that, we do have several students who are homeless here. If they are, you know, in rehab, for example, or they've started school and maybe need to go back, there's some very sensitive issues that we've had with students. And so that is very private information and not something that necessarily can wait for a retention team to get in touch with them, because we may not be able to get to it for 1 or 2 days. And these are specific concerns that cannot wait. So situations like this, we do not want to use an alert. You need to notify either Calvin or Michelle Anderson directly when it comes to anything to do with a suicidal ideation, any sort of abuse that's going on, if they have disclosed something that is in their life, if they show, you know, any signs of being hurt, either they've been hurt or they want to hurt somebody or hurt themselves, any sort of discipline or conduct issue, those are things that need to go and have immediate action. Something that's recently come to view because of COVID is we have to obey HIPAA. So please do not enter specific health information for students. And one example of that is COVID. So if a student, you know, now that's part of our lives, and if they are not doing well, not showing up to class because they've either tested positive or have symptoms or quarantine, or somebody in the family or their household has COVID, you know, we do not, that's definitely something that you'll need to work with them on and that we want to address and help them with. But now we need to know to be able to document that, and that needs to be corresponded with directly to Michelle Anderson. I spoke with her, and her preference is to email her directly. You can submit it as a confidential alert, she said, but she much rather you email her directly at anderson@uaptc.edu. And our early alert system, you know, this is a continuous work in progress, because every semester that we've done it, we've learned new things that work, things that don't work, feedback from instructors, you know, all of those things and what works efficiently. So we just want you to know that we are open to your feedback, and a lot of these things that we've discussed have been questions from instructors that want a little bit of clarification, or for us that we want to let you know about. We most certainly do not want this to be the first attempt to speak to the student. We would encourage you to try and discuss this with the student first. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to. If you would rather put the alert in, we are more than happy to do that for you and reach out to the student and be that middleman to help them. So, you know, the whole point of this is retention. We want to keep them. Some students just don't know what to do. They don't know who to talk to. So that is why you have to be the first point of contact, and it's so important for you to take the time to do these things. I know it's tedious, but we want to be consistent in this implementation, and we want it to be effective. So we want to try and keep these students. Please contact us if you have any questions. You can reach out to Tiffany or myself. The other members of the advising team are also part of our retention team. So if Tiffany and I get a little overloaded, we may ask them for help. But for the most part, it's going to be her and I that are doing it.
Bye.